absent,
absent. Not in a place because of illness, etc. For example, he was absent from work for 2 weeks.
AIDS. A serious illness caused by a virus called HIV that attacks the body's ability to resist infection, the abbreviation for acquired immune deficiency syndrome. For example, the AIDS epidemic.
Bleed.
Bleed. To lose blood, especially from a wound or an injury. For example, my finger's bleeding.
Bored.
Bored. Feeling tired and impatient because you have lost interest in something or because you have nothing to do. For example, there was a bored expression on her face.
Boring.
Boring. Not interesting, making you feel tired and impatient. For example, he's such a boring man.
Brave.
Brave. Willing to do things that are difficult, dangerous or painful, not afraid. For example, brave men and women.
Chronic.
Chronic. Lasting for a long time, difficult to cure. For example, chronic bronchitis/arthritis/asthma.
Clinic. A building or part of a hospital where people can go for special medical treatment or advice. For example, your local family planning clinic can give you advice about birth control.
Clinical. Relating to the examination and treatment of patients and their illnesses. For example, clinical research equals done on patients.
Closure. The situation when a factory, school, hospital, etc. shuts permanently. For example, factory closures.
Cold. Having a lower than usual temperature, having a temperature lower than the human body. For example, I'm cold. Turn the heating up.
Comfort. The state of being physically relaxed and free from pain. The state of having a pleasant life, with everything that you need. For example, the hotel offers a high standard of comfort and service.
Cruel. Having a desire to cause physical or mental pain and make somebody suffer. For example, he was known to be a cruel dictator.
Cure. A medicine or medical treatment that cures an illness. For example, cure for something. Cure. A medicine or medical treatment that cures an illness. For example, cure for something.
Cut. A wound caused by something sharp. For example, cuts and bruises on the face. Cut. A wound caused by something sharp. For example, cuts and bruises on the face.
Depression.
Depression. A medical condition in which a person feels very sad, anxious, and without hope and often has physical symptoms such as being unable to sleep, etc. For example, she was diagnosed as having clinical depression.
diagnose,
Diagnose. To say exactly what an illness or the cause of a problem is. For example, diagnose something.
Diagnosis.
Diagnosis. The act of discovering or identifying the exact cause of an illness or a problem. For example, a diagnosis of lung cancer.
Disease.
Disease. An illness affecting humans, animals, or plants, often caused by infection. For example, heart or lung or liver disease.
Dose. an amount of a medicine or a drug that is taken once or regularly over a period of time. For example, a high/low/lethal dose.
Draw. To make pictures, or a picture of something, with a pencil, pen or chalk, but not paint. For example, you draw beautifully.
Drug. An illegal substance that some people smoke, inject, etc. for the physical and mental effects it has. For example, he does not smoke or take drugs.
Ease. To become less unpleasant, painful or severe, to make something less unpleasant, etc. For example, the pain immediately eased. Endure. To experience and deal with something that is painful or unpleasant without giving up. For example, endure something.
Epidemic. A large number of cases of a particular disease or medical condition happening at the same time in a particular community. For example, the outbreak of a flu epidemic.
Exercise. Physical or mental activity that you do to stay healthy or become stronger. For example, swimming is good exercise.
Fever. A medical condition in which a person has a temperature that is higher than normal. For example, he has a high fever.
Fine. A sum of money that must be paid as punishment for breaking a law or rule. For example, I got a parking fine for parking on double yellow lines.
Fit. Healthy and strong, especially because you do regular physical exercise. For example, top athletes have to be very fit. Fit. Healthy and strong, especially because you do regular physical exercise. For example, top athletes have to be very fit. Fitness. The state of being physically healthy and strong. For example, a magazine on health and fitness.
Flu. A serious disease caused by a virus that causes a high temperature, severe pains, and weakness. For example, the whole family has the flu.
Fly. A small flying insect with 2 wings. There are many different types of fly and many of them spread disease. For example, a fly was buzzing against the window.
Frustrated.
Frustrated. Feeling annoyed and impatient because you cannot do or achieve what you want.
Frustrating.
Frustrating. Causing you to feel annoyed and impatient because you cannot do or achieve what you want. For example, it's frustrating to have to wait so long.
Headache. A continuous pain in the head. For example, he had a terrible headache.
Heal. To become healthy again, to make something healthy again. For example, it took a long time for the wounds to heal.
Health.
Health. The condition of a person's body or mind. For example, to be good/bad for your health.
Healthy.
Healthy. Having good health and not likely to become ill. For example, a healthy child, baby, adult.
Hospital.
Hospital. A large building where people who are ill or injured are given medical treatment and care. For example, to slash into the hospital.
Hurt. Injured physically. For example, none of the passengers were badly hurt.
Ill. Suffering from an illness or disease, not feeling well. For example, Her father is seriously ill in St. Luke's Hospital.
Illness. The state of being physically or mentally ill. For example, the virus can cause illness in humans.
Immune. That cannot catch or be affected by a particular disease or illness. For example, adults are often immune to German measles.
Impatient. Annoyed by something, especially because you have to wait for a long time. For example, I'd been waiting for 20 minutes and I was getting impatient.
Infection.
Infection. The act or process of causing or getting a disease. For example, to cause prevent infection.
Inject. To put a drug or other substance into a person's or an animal's body using a syringe. For example, inject something into yourself/somebody/something.
Injection. An act of injecting somebody with a drug or other substance. For example, to give somebody an injection.
Inmate. One of the people living in an institution such as a prison or a psychiatric hospital. For example, the jail has 500 inmates.
Loose. Not securely fixed where it should be, able to become separated from something. For example, a loose button/tooth.
Medical.
Medical. Connected with illness and injury and their treatment. For example, medical care or treatment.
Medication. A drug or another form of medicine that you take to prevent or to treat an illness, treatment involving drugs. For example, are you currently taking any medication?
Medicine.
Medicine. The study and treatment of diseases and injuries. For example, advances in modern medicine. Nurse. A person whose job is to take care of sick or injured people, usually in a hospital. For example, a registered nurse.
Obesity. The quality or fact of being very fat, in a way that is not healthy. For example, obesity can increase the risk of heart disease. Outbreak. The sudden start of something unpleasant, especially violence or a disease. For example, the outbreak of war.
Pain. The feelings that you have in your body when you have been hurt or when you are ill. For example, a cry of pain.
Painful. Causing you pain. For example, is your back still painful?